Hello, good afternoon. Today I'll be speaking about being unpopular and different ways that you can combat it. Being unpopular can be a very disheartening experience. It can lead to feelings of feeling isolated and perhaps feeling quite anxious. It can lead to emotions of envy, loneliness, but I just want to point out that being unpopular doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing, and there can be things that you can do in that unpopular place that you will eventually benefit from. So I'm just going to go through a few things now. So being unpopular can be in different capacities. Maybe it's being unpopular in school, maybe being unpopular in college, maybe being unpopular in a social setting such as church or a, you know a place of activity. It could be loneliness in all kinds of places, and as I said already, it doesn't need to be a negative experience. So I have a few ideas of how to combat being unpopular. Obviously, everybody, well, perhaps not everybody, but I would say lots of people can relate to being unpopular. There's been times where I've been unpopular, and it can be, like I said, it can be a very upsetting experience. You can be you can be unpopular for different reasons. I would say the worst reason of being unpopular is for just being yourself. So if you find that you are unpopular because you're being yourself, the first thing you need to do is to value your identity. Some people cope with being unpopular by trying to change to fit in, and that can actually backfire on yourself because you may have to compromise your values, you may have to compromise your morals just because you're not being yourself. Being unpopular due to just being yourself can be down to sexism, it can be down to racism, it can be down to bigotry. So if somebody doesn't accept you or like you or is snubbing you due to your race, that is racism, that is discrimination, which is actually unlawful in the UK. And depending on what setting that's in, whether it's at work or college or school, as it is an unlawful act, it can be addressed. Hi, Aaron Raymond. Hi, MJH. I hope you're both doing well, and I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. Sometimes people can make you feel unpopular, and you may never know the reason why, and that's a lot harder to combat. But as I've said, it's very important that you stay true to yourself and value your identity, because if you end up, I'm fine, thank you. Happy Easter to both of you if you celebrate Easter, and hello to Tuba Sahin. Hello to Tuba Sahin, and I hope you're all having a good afternoon and happy Easter. So, the big temptation with being unpopular is to change who you are in order to fit in or in order to be accepted. Two issues. Firstly, by trying to fit in, you won't necessarily be accepted. I mean, you may be let into the group, but people may still not value who you actually are. Another temptation with being unpopular is just being what. Thank you, Aaron Raymond. I really appreciate it. Another temptation is trying to be what the group expects you to be, and that means that you downplay your identity and you compromise your own values and you compromise your own beliefs, you know. So if you're playing the game of trying to fit in, unfortunately, it means that you're probably going to have to compromise on other things and end up doing and saying things that you don't necessarily believe in. Thank you for liking the live, and thank you for all your attention. I think being unpopular, one of the difficult things about being unpopular is how obvious it looks. And so You know, if I'm unpopular, I won't have anybody to sit with. I won't have anybody to go somewhere with. Thank you, Aaron Raymond, much appreciated, and thank you for liking the live. And also as well, I may not be, you know, I just may not have like a squad behind me. So those are really negative things that can impact me. The first thing you can do is, depending on what setting you're in, try and focus on what you're doing. So if you're unpopular at work, try and focus on being excelling in the workplace. You know, try and focus on getting the promotion. Try and focus on becoming an expert in that field. Try and focus on obtaining as. Bye, Aaron. Thank you for joining. I'm much appreciated. So if you're at work, try and focus on becoming the best worker you can be, and try and focus on obtaining as many skills, opportunities as you can, and connections as well. If you're unpopular at school, try and focus on getting the highest marks, on doing all your work, on just being the best in school, because you probably don't realize it now, but in future those results are going to make you into a very successful person. You're welcome, Aaron, and thank you once again for your time. So let's get into it. If you're unpopular, it gives you a freedom to be who you are. And I know lots of people would be like, no, I want to be popular, I want to be with the in crowd. But once you're in with the in crowd, you have to go along with what they class as popular. So if you're in with the in crowd, you pretty much have to you pretty much have to do what they like so you can stay in the crowd. But one of the positives about being unpopular is that you can actually do what you want, because you don't need to impress anybody. Yeah, obviously I'm just speaking about positive things. Yeah, no negativity. I'm just speaking about positive things. But when you're unpopular, it actually means you can like the music you want, you can like the sports you want, you can like the people you want, you can talk to anybody. It gives you a freedom to be who you are. Okay. Also as well, being unpopular means you can actually focus on what you're there to do. So if it's school, it means you can actually focus on your schoolwork. If it's college or if it's work, you can actually focus on what you're actually there to do, and broaden your horizons for future ambitions, which is always a plus. If you get good grades in school or university or college, in future you will have a good job. Like, hopefully, like in future you will do well financially, and when you do well financially, people are usually like attracted to being around you anyway. So you know. Also, if you are unpopular, try and do something new, like maybe learn a new language, like join an after school club or after college club, or just try and start a hobby, maybe learn a new instrument, or you know, start martial arts, or you know, go swimming, or just do something separate to where you are, because then that means you'll be surrounded by a new set of people that probably will appreciate you a lot more than the people that you're around. So being unpopular as well means that it can force you to pick up a new hobby, and by picking up a new hobby, you will surround yourself with a different set of people who who have the same goals as you in that new place. So a new hobby might be learning a new language, it might be learning a sport, it might be joining martial arts, it might be learning an instrument, it might be, you know, after school tuition or something like that. So see it as an opportunity to learn a new hobby or to try something new, because one of the traps of being, not traps, but one of the downsides of being in the in crowd is that people usually feel like everyone needs to agree with what they do. So if they did want to like join a chess club, or you know, do something different, you'd be mindful of what people think. But when you're unpopular, you can actually do what you want because there's no one to impress. Yeah. So think of so think of starting a new hobby, um, learn a new language, or maybe start an art class. 1 minute, guys. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Yeah. So learn a new hobby. Um, Join an arts class. Learn an instrument. Just do something that makes you feel more engaged with your own life. Like just do something that makes you feel like you're living your life to the full. If you are unpopular, try not to react negatively. Obviously that's easier said than done, but try not to react in a negative way, because then that will put you in a bad light, and it will just make you look, it will just make you look like the bad guy, which we know you're not. If you feel like you are being bullied, make sure you notify someone about this situation. Um, and if you can notify someone, an adult. Like, definitely notify an adult. If it's at work, notify HR or your manager. If it's in school, notify a teacher, a deputy head, or what have you. But if you feel like you are being bullied, notify someone senior to you, and make sure it's documented, make sure it's in writing. Speak to an adult or a guardian, but definitely notify HR or a teacher. But yeah, if you feel like, you know, if you feel unpopular, try not to react um, in a negative way, and because we wouldn't want that to backfire on you. Also, as well, if somebody is bullying you, um, try and remove yourself from the situation. Um, so if it's happening in the playground, just try and remove yourself from the situation. Obviously it's easier said than done, but definitely notify an adult, notify someone in authority, and try and make sure where you can to make sure that it's in writing, that it's documented somewhere, whether it's an email or a text message. But yeah, if you're in a setting, like maybe you're in a class somewhere, or in a playground, or in a sports hall, and you feel like you're being bullied, try and remove yourself from that area and go somewhere else where there's lots of people. But definitely speak to an adult about that so it can be addressed. Um, there are also lots of books. When I was young, I'd always go to the library. Um, I used to read loads of books. I was a bookworm. I just loved reading. And when I used to read and read and read, I actually felt like I was making friends with people. I learned about lots of new experiences. I learned about lots of different things. I read books from different countries, different backgrounds, and it just made me feel less isolated. So reading is really good if you can get into reading. I used to like bunk school and go to the library, which is very sad. But yeah, I used to bunk and go to the library and read lots of books. Or I used to just bunk school and read. Yeah, but yeah, reading is a really good way to try and connect with people that may have been through something similar to yourself. And also, reading a lot increases your vocabulary. Um, you know, which is always an asset. It increases your vocabulary. It keeps you out of trouble. Or you can learn an instrument. You know, you learn an instrument, or join a martial arts class, or start a sports. Maybe swimming, football, badminton. Maybe join a chess club. But yeah, reading is really good in terms of connecting with people that have been through the same thing, and it takes up a lot of time, which is good because obviously if you've got lots of time on your hand, reading is really good. Um, Also, as well, sometimes we can feel like sometimes we can feel like we're unpopular But is it that you are unpopular, or is it that the people that you want to go around with don't like you? Because there may be other friends, there may be other people that want to be your friends, but you may feel like, no, I don't really want to be around those people. I want to be in with the in crowd. Do you see? So sometimes you need to ask yourself, is it that the people that I want to be my friends aren't my friends, or is it that nobody is my friend? Because just having one good friend is worth more than having eight fake friends, and even though from the outside looking in, you'd be like, oh, I don't care if they're fake, I'd rather have those amount of friends. But honestly, having one or two really good friends is worth way more than having a whole squad of people that deep down don't actually like you and are talking about you all the time. So even if there's one good friend that you can make, that is always a benefit. There's lots of people that you may go to school with, that you may work with, that in time you will never see or speak to again. And sometimes there's just that one person that you made friends with ages ago that you're still friends with. I still have a friend from primary school, I still have a friend from secondary school. I don't have any friends from, yeah, I still have a friend from college-ish. But yeah, there's some people that will, you have a friendship that will follow you through the years. So you may feel like you're unpopular, but maybe it's because you're trying to be friends with the in crowd. Why don't you just try making friends with somebody that's around you that you may not necessarily value, but may actually turn out to be a good friend. So what I would say is, don't overlook anybody as a friend. There may be people that you want to be friends with that don't like you, but there may be somebody around that you don't value that would love to be your friends, and that are maybe looking for friends themselves, you know. Um, Also, as well, it's good to try and have a meaningful friendship with people. And so instead of even though it's hard to even though it's hard to it's hard to know for definite, but it is really good to have meaningful friendships, and not just friendships where people want to be around you because it looks good. Some people just want to be around popular people because they feel like they will look more popular by association. But it's good to have meaningful friendships. It's good to have friendships with people that are loyal, that trust you, that are trustworthy. So although you may feel unpopular, just look for somebody that may need a friend, and who wants a meaningful friendship and will be loyal. So they may not be the most popular person in class, but at least they'll be a friend, yeah? So what I'm saying is, don't be fussy about who you become friends with, as in, you know, just make friends with people that want to make meaningful friendships. It may not be the person that would be your first choice, but a friend is a friend, is a friend. Um, Also, this, not always, but a lot of the time, people like people that are positive. So if you just try and keep a positive energy, you should be able to make friends, or just try and be positive about the situation. Don't become sour, don't become jealous or envious, even though it can be hard to keep a right attitude. But just try and keep a positive energy about things, and always look on the bright side of life, even though you may be going through things. And then you'll find that sometimes that can draw people to you as well. But whether you have lots of friends or not, it doesn't take away from the fact that you are a good person and you have good traits. So don't let the amount of friends determine how much you feel you're worth. Like, you are a valuable person, and you're definitely worth a friendship. So let don't let the amount of friends you have impact your self esteem, because you're a person of value. Um, some people are popular and they're not very nice, and that's just life. Do you know what I mean? But that's just the way it goes. But still keep your positive energy and just be yourself. Obviously, by being yourself, sometimes you have off days. That's completely natural. Sometimes there's some days you'll be in a bad mood and stuff. You're just not hearing it. But that's just life, yeah? But definitely, as much as you can, just try and be positive. Keep positive traits. And that does draw people to you sometimes. Don't fall into the trap of being willing to do anything just to make friends, because that will make you vulnerable and people might take advantage of that. So don't fall into the trap of being willing to do anything or being willing to say anything just so you can have friends. Do not fall into that trap. Because they will accept you, but they will not be your true friends. So that it's not really worth it. Also, try and, like, everybody needs friends, so try and pick friends that have similar interests to you. Okay, so there's probably people around that are similar to you, and they may not have friends as well, and you can make friends with them, you know. Also as well, like I said, there's lots of things that you can join in order to make more friends. And also as well, there'll be people there that have similar interests to you. So if you learn to play the drums, or if you join a chess club, or if you go swimming, you're more likely to see people there that are interested in the same thing. Also, you can use social media to your advantage. So as we all know, social media open up can open you up to communicating with people all over the world, and as long as you're safe, and as long as you don't give away too much personal details online, and you stay safe online, there's nothing wrong with just making friends with people online. So you may feel like you're unpopular and you don't have friends in a real life, but you can make friends online. You can go into forums online and you can make friends that way. There's nothing wrong with that, yeah. But definitely just be safe online, 100% be safe online. If you're a child, make friends with children, you know, just be safe online. But yeah, that can be a place where you can make friends. Everybody knows that standing up to peer pressure can be very, very difficult. It's not an easy thing to go against the grain and to be the odd one out and to have people perhaps laugh at you or make fun of you. It is very difficult and it can be very demoralizing. People can, by being unpopular, it can affect your self-esteem, but as much as you can, just try and stay confident within yourself. You know, try not to let having less friends impact the way you view yourself, or the way you look, or the way you sound, or your potential, or your future. Try not to let it impact those things, because those things are so precious. And whether you have friends or not does not add or take away from your popularity. So, where possible, try not to let it impact the way you feel about yourself, okay? And honestly, like I said before, there can be a freedom in being unpopular, because then you can actually just do what you want. You don't need to fit into any circle, or you don't need to fit into any friendship group or anything. You're actually free just to be yourself. So that can be freeing in itself. Also, as well, focus on what makes you happy, focus on what makes your family proud, just focus on what's good for you. If there's things that you like to do, if there's places you like to go and people tease you about it, just lean into it. You may as well, if people, the police are coming. If people are onto you because you're really good at maths or because you enjoy maths, Lean into it. Charge people so you can tutor them. You know, seriously, look into tutoring people, maths or science or engineering. Look into tutoring, because then you can make money out of that quality that you have. You know, sometimes what people tease you about is something that they're jealous of, or sometimes what people tease you about is something that they're insecure of. So if you're really good at maths and people are are making fun of you, you can tutor other pupils for money and tutor in maths or whichever subject it is. So lean into what's made you unpopular. Lean into it, whatever it may be. Absolutely, lean into it, because it can possibly bring you a lot of benefit in the long term. Um, Also, as well, what I will say is a person that's confident in themselves do not have to put someone a confident person doesn't have to put somebody else down to make themselves feel good. Confident people do not do that, okay? And being confident doesn't mean you're loud. You can be quiet and be confident, but 100% a truly confident person does not have to put somebody else down in order to make themselves feel good. So, if you are unpopular, as much as you can, try and show kindness to everybody. Just show kindness to everybody. And I'm not saying, you know, become a doormat. That's not what I'm saying, you know. I'm just saying show kindness to everybody. Don't try not to become the negative things that, you know, has been done to you. So yeah, try and show kindness to others. You know, rise above the behavior that people are showing you. But kindness goes a long way, and it definitely makes you more attractive. 100% don't become a doormat. I'm not telling you to become a doormat. No. And don't say yes to everything. Sometimes you have to say no. I'm just simply saying that you can be a kind person without being a doormat. Um, Also, as well, realize that being popular is short term. You know, being popular isn't a long term thing, it's just for a window of time. So, the people that are popular in primary school aren't likely to be popular in secondary school. Well, they may do if they've got siblings there. Or the people that were popular in secondary school probably aren't going to be popular in college, or they might do. But the people popular in college probably aren't going to be popular in your workplace. So there's a window in every stage of life, and a lot of the situations you find yourself in may not be permanent. Okay? And there's a saying that every dog has its day, meaning, you know, people have glow ups, you know, they may not have been, you know, Miss Thing in school, but when they got a bit older and they started going to work, they went to university, they just glowed up and came into themselves. So every person has a window, but popularity does not last forever. And as we all get older, there's different windows in life. There's different seasons that we all step into, and you're not going to have it all the time. Okay, it's better to it's better to be more successful later in life than much earlier. You don't want to peak early, okay? You want to peak a bit in your, you know, late teens, early 20s. You don't want to peak too early. Um, Also, as well, I mean, some people find that popular people are probably the most beautiful, but outward beauty is very superficial, even though it's the most instantly recognizable, but it can be very superficial. And everybody can look good. You know, sometimes it's just confidence, to be honest with you, and that can come with time, but honestly, it's, you know, some people, um, some people that have pretty privilege or handsome privilege may be able to get to a certain point in life, but you do need substance. And some people that may not have been as popular have learned how to adapt to different scenarios, have learned how to dig a bit deeper, have learned how to make conversation with different types of people, and all these things are life skills that that you will benefit from in life in future. So sometimes not getting things easily is a big bonus, because you learn how to graft in life, and you learn how to communicate with different types of people, and you also learn how to persevere. So honestly, things will get better, right? You will be fine. Um, Another thing is that people that aren't really popular early in life often do well later in life, because they've been doing a lot of grafting behind the scenes. So they've put lots of things in place. So lots of people that may not have been very popular in their younger years have been able to save up to buy a house, or have been able to pass their exams and assignments, and now they've got a good job, and now they're able to travel, and now they're financially free. And so lots of people that are quote unquote unpopular have ended up being in a very, very comfortable place later in life, because they were concentrating on the correct things when they were younger. I mean, they didn't have a choice, but they were concentrating on the correct things when they were younger. So as they got older, they were able to enjoy life and just be successful and be able to do the things they want in the time frame that they want. And by that time as well, they've learnt to cultivate life skills that will take them even further, such as communicating with people from different backgrounds, perseverance, being confident in themselves. All these things are things that are to their advantage later in life. Um, Also, as well, if you are unpopular, you probably know what it's like having to make conversations with different types of people that you may not necessarily ordinarily speak to. And that is a skill that is very much valued, that you're able to just that you're able to make people feel at ease, basically. That's a very, very good skill to have. That's a good skill in negotiating as well, in reading people and being able to respond appropriately to situations. So yeah, 100%. You being unpopular creates qualities in you that you don't realize is being created. Yeah. Also, you need to remember that just because something is popular, it doesn't it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. And just because something is unpopular, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. So bad things can be popular and good things can be unpopular. So the general consensus of popularity isn't an indication of something's value. I mean, something very, very bad can be popular, and something very, very good can be unpopular. So try not to calculate the value of things by the response of people, because that isn't always an accurate response. Um, Also, as well, try and focus less time on trying to figure out what makes other people popular, and spend that time instead on trying to consider what makes you happy. So instead of considering, oh, this person's popular, oh, that person's popular, oh, I wasn't invited to this party, I wasn't invited to that party, oh, I've got nobody to sit with, oh, this person's friends with this one. So instead of focusing on what's popular, who's in, what makes this person popular, what the popular people are doing, where the popular people are going, instead of concentrating on that, try and concentrate on what makes you happy as a person. Try and concentrate on different after school clubs you can go to. Try and concentrate try concentrating on building a meaningful friendship for yourself, regardless of if that's just one person. Just focus on cultivating that friendship rather than focusing on, am I popular, am I not popular, why aren't I popular, oh, how can I become. So, for now, just concentrate on what makes me happy, concentrate on who is my friend, and also how do I create more and more of a meaningful friendship, you know. um so a weird thing that can start happening is that sometimes you can try so hard to be sometimes what can happen is you can try so hard to become popular, or you can, really wish you were in the popular set and stuff. What can happen is that you can end up looking down on popular people. You can start hating on popular people. You can start wishing bad on popular people. And that's quite perverse, that's quite weird. And that's, now you've become worse than, the people, now you've just become a very horrible person. So if you are unpopular, try not to hate unpopular people, or try not to wish bad on them. Try not to look down on them. Just don't. Yeah, just try and just keep that positive energy. Don't try and be negative towards them, or start rumors that aren't true, or don't think the worst of them, every time you see them, just because they're popular. Just because somebody is popular, it doesn't mean that they're shallow people, it doesn't mean that they're shallow. It doesn't mean that they don't have insecurities. And it doesn't mean they're not going through anything. They might have issues at home. um, so we all have hidden sackcloth, meaning everyone's going through something. Okay, so don't start hating on people because you're not able to get into their friendship circle, is what I will say. So those are my tips on being unpopular. I would say that there's a lot of benefits to being unpopular. As I said earlier, one of which is that you don't need to give in to any peer pressure. You can actually just be yourself. If one day you want to wear blue lipstick, you can do, because there's no one to impress. Or if one day you want to wear something that's a bit outlandish, you can wear it, because you're not trying to impress anybody. So sometimes being unpopular can be quite freeing. Being unpopular, you may as well focus on what makes you happy. You may as well focus on what you would like to do, because there's no one to impress, or no one to impress, or no one to pressure you into doing things you don't want to do. You can actually, if you want to join a chess club, if you want to learn an instrument, if you want to join a maths club, you can do those things, because you don't need to, you don't need to stay on code with anyone. So that's my advice. Those are my tips for anybody that feels that they're unpopular, and just wanted some support and encouragement in that place. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. But honestly, being unpopular sometimes can be a protection. It can actually protect you sometimes from falling into a crowd that is not healthy to be around. Um, Also, as well, I want to warn you um, about what you wish for, because some people may allow you into their circle because they want to use you. They might know that you're dying to get into the popular crowd, and they might allow you into the crowd, but then ask you to do things that you don't want to do. Maybe ask you to start shoplifting, or ask you to start selling stuff, or keeping stuff in your house that shouldn't be there. So it's not always a great thing to be in the middle of the in crowds, and being unpopular might actually be protection against yourself, and also as well, it might be protection against people, that are not a good influence on you. And also as well, what do you class as being unpopular? Like, what does being unpopular mean? Because if you have one good friend, or even two, but if you have one good friend, that is really good, and that one good friend could be a friend for life. But if you're just surrounded with people, you've got your whole squad you know, deep down they may not even like you. They might be fake friends. So, you know, on reflection, what do you class as being unpopular? Is it just that you've got less friends than other people? Is it just that you've only got genuine friendships, you know, that will last a lifetime? Or is it just because you don't value people around you that are trying to be your friend, because you hold other types of people in a higher regard, and so therefore now you feel like you're unpopular because, you know, the right people aren't the ones that are trying to be your friend. So also just evaluate what your just evaluate what, you know, what system you're using to measure yourself, because honestly, if you have one good friend, you've got a friend for life. Like if you've got one genuine loyal friend, that is worth a whole squad of people that deep down do not like you or are two-faced. Yeah. And also as well, you can have friends for different things, so you don't need to have all your friends in one place. You may go to art class, so you've got your friends in art class. You may go to church or mosque, you know, or go to the Buddhist temple, and you have your friends there. You might go to a running club. You've got your friends in the running club. You know, you might be learning an instrument. You might be learning to play the flute. You've got your friends in the flute class. You might be DC. So you may know of different people in different sections of your life. So, you know, you don't need to you don't need to pressure yourself to have 100 people as friends. You know, just give yourself time. You're also getting to know yourself, what your values are and what your preferences are. So yeah, I would say if you are unpopular, use this time to lean into knowing what you like. Use this time to lean into knowing different talents or giftings you may have by trying different things. You know, I used to, you know, I've still got a friend from primary school. I still got a friend from secondary school. They're two different people. Yeah. And so just be yourself, be positive. Don't be a doormat, you know. Don't be a doormat. Also, where you can, just interact with people that are positive. You know, don't, where possible, don't try and get into circles where. So if you try and make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are positive people, are people that have your best interests in at heart, and are people that will lead you down a road of constructive activities. That's always a great thing. Don't rush to be around people that are questionable, or who are involved in questionable activities, because then it may be very hard for you to separate yourselves from those same people. What I will also say is that if you are being bullied, or if you're in a situation where you feel like you're being treated very negatively, do reach out to somebody, speak to an adult. If you're in a school or college or workplace, speak to your manager or your teacher or form teacher, head of year, and make sure that it's in writing. That's another important thing. You can speak to somebody, but also make sure that it's in writing, so it's documented somewhere. I would like to encourage you and just let you know that, you know, you haven't even fully walked into all that you are, and you have so much going for you. You have a great future ahead. Do not be distracted by circles of people that are negative. You will make friends. You may not make the amount of friends that you aim to, but as long as you have a genuine friendship, somebody that's loyal, that supports you, that's got your back, that's honest, then I would say that that's worth having 100 people behind you that are two-faced and aren't genuine and don't have your best interests at heart. I'd also say don't be hard on yourself. Don't be hard on other people. We're all changing, growing, and developing. And so there may be your friend, somebody may have offended you, but honestly, you can't just keep cutting people off. Otherwise, you will end up with no friends. But then, obviously, if you feel like you need to cut people off, then you do what's right for you. Also, as well, if you're able to surround yourself with people that are willing to encourage you to walk into all that you believe you have for yourself in future, that's very good. It's not healthy to be around people that are always putting you down or discouraging you or aren't willing to let you express yourself in regards to goals or plans that you may have. Try and be around people that do want you to become the person who you're meant to be. Don't be afraid to try new things, to join new groups, to try new hobbies. Don't be afraid to do those things. And yeah, and also persevere in your friendships. As long as it's not one-sided, make sure your friendships aren't one-sided. Make sure that you're not always the one saying sorry, or you're not always the one buying things for people. Make sure that you're not always the person going out of your way. Friendships should be equal. One shouldn't be beholden to the other person. So evaluate your friendships a lot as well, and make sure that you're not being a doormat in some circumstances. But yeah, so you can make friends anywhere. Don't feel like the one place where you may feel unpopular is the only place that you can make friendships. You can make friendships anywhere. I would encourage you to. And if you do, when you do make genuine friendships, it's also a reflection of yourself. You get to know more of who you are, which is always a good thing. Anyway, so I'll be ending my live in about 10 minutes, and if there are any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. But yes, being unpopular can be very isolating. It can make you feel very down about things. It can be a very confusing time. It can be a very painful time. It can lead to a lot of anxiety. However, there is always a way out. There's always a way out. You always have options. So do not feel that you're stuck in a place where you're unpopular. You always have options. You may not see what those options are, but they are always options. Don't lose sight of your self-esteem. Don't feel don't feel like you're less than the people you're trying to make friends with. You're worth the same as everybody else. You may be around people that do not appreciate who you are, but there are people out there who will appreciate you. Also, as well, make sure you're around people that are productive and do not have destructive habits. Be around people that can influence you for good, that want to move in a good direction in life, and you should be fine, honestly. But it can be really difficult, but there are always options. Okay. And yeah, some people feel like being unpopular is the worst thing ever, but at times that can actually protect you from many things. Sometimes being unpopular can save you from a lot of peer pressure, and you may not understand it now, but when you're older, you will definitely understand. But yeah, but I hope you've enjoyed this live. Please like the live. Thank you for your attention. I'll be back on Wednesday talking about glueless wigs. But yeah, so I'll see you then, and thank you for your time and your attention. Please like the live and let me know of any topics you'd like me to cover in future. Thank you. Bye.